You should drop edibles before you watch Blade Runner, but you should drop a tab of acid before you watch Apocalypse Now. And you'll probably have a bad trip. Probably the most terrifying trip of your life. But nobody finds out who they are by sitting in their comfort zone. You know when you watch something going into it, like knowing some information about it, like, oh, it's an old movie, it's a war movie, and you have these ideas that pop into your head, like what it's going to be like, what things you're probably going to like about it, what things you're not going to like about it, what's possible, right? What the best case scenario would be. Like for the longest time, I never cared about like mecha anime, because in my mind, there were limitations. I thought, like, even if it's the best mecha anime, even if it's like a 10 out of 10 for a mecha, it would still just be a 7 out of 10 overall. And then I watched Evangelion, and it completely redefined what I thought was even possible. Do you guys ever have that where you watch something that just it completely redefines like the conceivable reality of what this thing could be in your own mind, surpassing your wildest imaginations? It's like a first kiss. Like you never forget it, you know, and it can only happen once. There's so many things out there that are like the first kiss, like that feeling, you know, of being so in the moment that like the entire world transforms. Like it's a paradigm shift. You see the world differently after that. And there's many things that give you that feeling, and I want to chase that feeling. And that's why I decided to do what I'm doing right now. Here I was thinking like, man, Top Gun Maverick, impeccable movie, great visuals, great sound, decent characters, and textbook storytelling. It doesn't get much better than this for a war movie. I'd still, you know, think it's like pretty mediocre. And then I watched Apocalypse Now. It's one of those movies that they talk about in film school, but not really. It's mentioned here and there because people basically only have good things to say about it. But nowadays, film school is pretty much political science school, or really all art schools are, or really all just colleges are. In film school, they really only go depth on movies that like agree with their political message, or at least they try to. The movie is actually loosely based on the book Heart of Darkness, which at the time was thought to be impossible to adapt into film. The production story actually about this movie and how it was made is almost as interesting as the movie itself. In fact, it's even more hellish than what they portrayed in the movie. And you know, when you look up the cast and the fifth member there is Harrison Ford, you know it's going to be a damn good movie. It's the kind of movie that you watch over and over again, like once every few months or once every few years, and it gets better and better every time. And in that way, it's a blessing and a curse that there's so many different cuts of the movie. This isn't really a war movie, by the way. I mean, it is like in the subject matter, but I would classify it more as a horror movie than a war movie. The most profound psychological discovery of all time, pay attention, is that it isn't just that when people are happy, they smile. It's also true that when people smile, they become happy. And knowing this, not just knowing it, understanding it with your entire being, causes you to notice this pattern everywhere. It isn't the case that you need strong, dedicated people to fight for a cause. But if people are strong and willing, that means the cause is worth fighting for. There's no real distinction between someone who's enlightened and someone who goes insane. They're just them. Enlightened or insane is just what people call them, whether or not they resonate with what they say. Name one person who was called enlightened by anyone who was not also called insane by someone else. It's all a matter of perspective. One man sees the world as a cycle of life, while another man sees the world as a cycle of death. And neither of them are wrong. You know, for the longest time, I never really understood the quote, if you stare into the abyss for long enough, eventually the abyss stares back at you. It's always plagued me because everyone repeats it and it's such a popular quote, and I can never really figure out what was so profound about it, right? But now I get it. I can't fully explain it, and it's not a super satisfying answer. It's not as profound as I wanted it to be, but I get it. I will be watching this movie again, maybe a few more times, and I think it'll get better every single time. But for now, there's a lot of incredible pieces of media out there. I don't think it's masterpieces. It's tricky. I'll give it an 8.
It's Filthy Frank, motherfucker. It's Filthy Frank, bitch. Let's get some pussy tonight.